listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. If it's post-apocalyptic, we're talking about it.
Hello and welcome, everyone, to this week's Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. I'm your host, Derek. I'm joined by Sean.
Hey, everyone.
And we've also got Stephanie.
Hello.
All right, I'm going to be honest with you guys right up front. This has been a slow news week. However, there is an asterisk there. It has been a slow news week, but it's been a big week for post-apocalyptic media, and that is because The Tomorrow War released. And that movie, let me tell you, if you haven't seen it yet, it's really good. It's a good movie, and we're going to be talking about whether or not it's the next great alien invasion movie. But one thing I can say is that it was really fun to watch. We are going to be talking about that. We all three watched it. So we're going to be talking about that at the end of the episode. And the reason we're putting it back there is because we want to have a no-holds-barred discussion about it. So what we're going to do is at the end of the episode, we're going to give a spoiler-free discussion. And then we are going to send the younglings away, the ones that have not seen it. And then we're going to have a frank discussion about what we thought about the resolution and things like that. It's worth that kind of a discussion because it was that good. So that is going to be at the end of the show. We just didn't want to spoil anybody. But other than that, we've got a few news items to talk about. And also, I'm going to do a segment prepping for dystopia because and that's going to involve blockchain. That got us a lot of YouTube clicks last time we put that in the title. So that's maybe it'll just be a blockchain segment. Who knows?
So we just have to keep saying blockchain every once in a while?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the blockchain is great.
Blockchain.
Okay, so if you don't know, we have a website, postapocalyptic.com, and we cover everything in the genre. We have a number of writers who cover different aspects of what's going on in post-apocalyptic media right now. That some people write about TV, some people write about movies, games, which is huge, events, and world events. Like we care about the end of the world. It's not just TV shows to us. So a lot of us are prepping and being aware of the different ways that our lives might change drastically if things start spinning out of control. So check out our website, postapocalyptic.com. We have a community in a Discord server, and so we can all communicate with each other. If you want to come in and be part of that, you're welcome to. It's an open Discord. So there's a link to our Discord on the website. We also have a YouTube channel. And so, you may be watching this on YouTube. So if you are, please like and subscribe. You know what? We haven't really been, pushing everybody to do that kind of stuff because we're bros. We just want to be your friend. But at the same time, it's important to do it. So, if you just feel in your heart that you like it, even a little bit, that's enough. The YouTube says that's good enough. You hit that like button and let them know. And subscribe too, because we're not just putting out podcast content. That's our primary content at the moment. But we've got plans. We're going to do some reviews for prepper survival stuff, how-to videos for setting up things like in my car right now, there are cameras. There are 4 cameras recording all the time. And they're uploading to the cloud automatically. So if anything happens, somebody robs my car, if I'm involved in something while I'm in my car or nearby, I'm able to go to that as a backup. That is a preparation of sorts. It's not prepping for the full apocalypse, but it is prepping, I would say. And so anyways, we're gonna have content like that. But anyways, That's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Anything I'm leaving out, guys?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So, well,
Got it covered.
let's jump right into it. Real quick, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. It's animated. It's coming out on Netflix, and it's coming out July 8th. So probably already out by the time you see this. I'm going to adjust my camera so it's just a little bit less weird.
My
All
camera's
right.
always weird.
Yeah. You have to, like, you insist on having the cat in the shot. So.
Yes. If you're watching on video right now and not just listening, you can see my cat. The bottom left corner, right there. He looks so cute. He's all cuddled up and sleeping. So that's the bonus view I'm granting my cat.
All right. So, yeah, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, July 8th. Check that out if you're into that. Rick and Morty is a show that Stephanie and I really love. I haven't asked Sean about
And
this.
Sean.
Yay.
And Sean loves
Sean's
it,
a
yeah.
fan. All right. Well, Rick and Morty is a very adult comedy.
I'm an adult.
We
Just
checked.
recently.
We checked before having this conversation, and it's really funny. It's not always about the apocalypse. In fact, I don't know, maybe less than 50% involves an apocalypse, which is tongue in cheek because it's just like incidentally an apocalypse happens a lot in Rick and Morty. But this last episode was actually about 3 different apocalypse.
Yes. They went on Rick and Summer went on an apocalypse tour.
All right. Well, tell us what you think.
They went on an apocalypse tour. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm trying to remember what all the apocalypses were. I know there was one where the planet was getting sucked into a black hole. I don't know. They described them very quickly at the beginning, and I should have gone back and looked over that, but I didn't.
I think it was black hole, comet, and maybe sun explosion.
Maybe sun explosion, but yes, it was pretty fun. They just went from planet to planet, doing their apocalypse tour and partying with the aliens before their planet was destroyed. It was fun. They made it, they weren't like trying to save the planets. It was just an apocalypse tour. And then, the whole gist of the entire episode then was Planetina, who was a parody of Captain Planet. So also feeling like Earth is heading towards its own apocalypse that she couldn't, she felt like was very difficult to stop. So whole bunch of apocalypses in one episode, but it was fun. I know I'm like talking vaguely because I don't know if I should have spoilers or not.
It was pretty recent, but
Yeah.
But you're either like a Rick and Morty fan and you're already seen it probably.
Yeah.
Or you're you need to have a real view of what the episode sounds like. So I think it's fine. That episode, I think it took a dark turn there at the end where you find out that Rick's ship can easily save the world from their apocalypse, and he was just going to let them all die because he wanted to party with them. So that's part of the darkness. The other part, I think that the Planetina has a little too much in common with Britney Spears right now. It's like,
Oh, I forgot about that.
her handlers are so like using her and trying to
Controlling her every move. Yeah.
So it almost feels like Rick and Morty's kind of pushing to be more like South Park in that they're going to start incorporating major political events and stuff into their material, which they need to do. They need to spruce it up somehow. Find a source for more content because they're so reticent to create anything that would do be like canon or like change anything.
Yeah.
They're reticent to do it, but you can also see like in this episode that the characters are evolving. They're growing and they're changing. It's like these last few episodes, Rick has been less all powerful than we were kind of used to him being, and Morty is getting more powerful and becoming kind of more like his grandfather as far as just being really badass and able to but also willing to just kill people for his goal. So it's been interesting. It's been interesting to watch that evolution, and especially knowing what we do about evil Morty. And I don't know. I love this show though, because it has all these little apocalypses that show up, and sometimes they'll even have an entire episode dedicated to an apocalypse, but they can just move to another planet or another dimension or whatever, and and we're back to normal.
Yeah, I think it was in one of the very first episodes where they turned the world into like a Cronenberg world is
Yes.
what they called it, and it was just like they killed everybody in the entire planet because they did some genetic altering or something, and it was just an unintended consequence. But they just ruined the entire world. But instead of like spending a lot of time fixing it, they just hopped to a new world, and and that was their solution. I can see why that appeals, than the other solution.
Yeah, it would be nice to just do that. Just have like throwaway dimensions where you mess up and you're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll go back to a different dimension.
Seriously, we could like visit an Earth with less climate change. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Hop to different timelines, different versions of yourself.
Yeah. They've
Yeah.
done a couple post-apocalyptic. They had one where they actually had like a Mad Max
Yes.
theme with like the cars and the spiked leather armor and stuff like that. And I
That one
know
was
the other one you were
fun.
talking about too. They actually have one called Post-Apocalyptic Dimension, which is, I think that's the one you were describing.
Oh,
Where it's all post-apocalyptic. But then they have that other one called Rick Mancing the Stone, which is such a great name.
It's timeless.
But that's the one with all the armor and the and the Mad Max cars and everything. But you can tell
the
that they're
Thunderdome.
fans. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can tell they're fans. I love that.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
so
they're
great.
listening to this podcast. Right.
Hey. And that one episode, the one you were talking about, Sean, and then where Summer was all into that guy until she actually saw his face.
Yeah.
Because he was wearing a mask the whole time. It's so funny. I was thinking, I wonder if that's happened at all, like now, like if somebody was trying to date somebody and they were just wearing masks and then they got vaccinated and
It's probably happened at Wasteland Weekend a few times, I would say.
on Wasteland Weekend. Oh, that's funny. I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh, probably.
Steph, remind me, what's the Mandela Effect again?
The Mandela Effect. That is when, a succinct way to describe it, when you think something is one way and then suddenly it seems like the universe shifted and it's different. It's like best example I can give is all the people who are positive that Berenstain Bears was spelled with an EN, but it's actually spelled AIN.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people who are like, well, maybe we're from a universe where it was spelled this way, because we're absolutely positive it was, and it just shifted. There's a tiniest little quantum-sized shift, and one of the only differences is Berenstain Bears is spelled differently.
All right, so if there are parallel worlds, maybe one of like the parallels that's closest to us has just about everything the same, except for they spelled it a little bit differently, or maybe there's a lot of other subtleties. I think they named the effect after like some people thought they like remembered Mandela dying, but then like years later they find him still alive and nobody remembers him dying except for some of them, and it was just like really weird. Yeah, Berenstain Bears are actually something else. The one that got me was I thought it was Mirror, Mirror on the Wall in the No, it wasn't Cinderella.
Snow White. Yeah.
It's not Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. It's Magic Mirror on the Wall.
Yeah.
Then that one but the Berenstain Bears as well.
Also,
Yeah, I really-
Star Wars, A lot of people think that he said, Luke, I am your father. But he didn't. He said, no, I am your father, or something like that. And so people are like, no, there's no way. I remember hearing it that way. But yeah, there's a bunch of really good ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think I even wrote a story about the Berenstein Bears one, because there was, I did write a story about that years ago for Heavy, not for Post-Apocalyptic Media, but there was something that came out on Reddit that people thought might have been proof of the original spelling that was changed, and so I did a whole story on that. So that was fun. But yeah, the Luke, I am your father thing is interesting too. It's like, did people just, I don't know, start making jokes and kind of change what it was said slightly, and the joke became more known than the scene itself?
That's probably it, yeah.
Either that, or their consciousness is jumping to a parallel reality, and maybe it's because the previous reality they came from went boom. Who knows? I always wonder, like any moment now, like the Hadron Collider could just like, split the wrong kind of element and just black hole or something.
Well, what about those Tic Tac aliens? I mean, I think that they're friendly, but maybe they're like destroying universes, and we're just shifting and shifting and shifting to other ones. But aliens, if you're listening, I don't think that theory's true. I really like you guys. I think you're great.
And boom, we just switched to a new
I know. It's like, what Tic Tac aliens? What are you guys talking about? There's no Tic Tac alien.
Yeah, and by the way, on the UFO front, I just read another interview with a Nimitz personnel guy who was describing the UFO, the Tic Tac. Lots of people saw it that day, by the way. It looks like a propane tank. I've heard it described as a flying propane tank.
What?
And it's like,
but that's not Tic Tac shaped.
Yeah, well, like elongated, like the big ones, like the ones you see like in somebody's yard.
That's a good point. Okay, I was thinking of small ones.
But yeah, there's just there's more and more evidence coming out. I want to wait for a few weeks and not just give an update every week of the little stuff.
But it's so fascinating.
But there is news. I don't want you to get the idea that there's no news this week on UFOs. It's just but there was that eyewitness account, and things seem to be progressing. On the UFO front, I do want to tell you about Discovery Channel. They had their 3-hour special, and I believe you can watch it for free. I don't have that information right in front of me, but I became aware on Reddit they were talking about it, and they provided a link. So 3-hour special. It's not like groundbreaking stuff, but it's really good, thorough analysis for about 3 hours. If you want to put in that kind of time, you will get a good bird's eye view of the stuff that's come out recently, and from professional seeming and sounding people. I mean, they cited their sources. Oh, and by the way, it had 3 major politicians and celebrities that came on.
Head of NASA.
The current head of NASA, right?
To reiterate that the head of NASA talks about how these are unidentified, and he said that they were not from the U.S. government. I mean, the paper that was released was all kind of hedgy about it. These probably aren't from the government. Well, the head of NASA said that it wasn't in his interview, and maybe he just wasn't being specific enough, but hey, I'm going with that.
Yeah, he also had, I think, John Podesta and Harry Reid. And so these are big wigs in Washington, regardless of what you think about them politically. Like, these are... they suppress so much of this information just by making it ridiculous to report it. A lot of these military people are saying, we didn't report it because we didn't want to get made fun of.
Yeah.
And that was the long and short of it. It was just, how many stories have we not heard because people are afraid to, to come forward just because of their reputation hit that they would take. So, anyways, Discovery, it's called UFOs Declassified Live. Moving on. Moving on. one last topic before we get into the Tomorrow War, which I know you're waiting for because it was a great movie and you want to hear our takes on it, and then respond to those takes in our Discord channel and argue with us if you want
or
to.
on YouTube.
Or preferably on YouTube, because that controversy really gins up the old clicks. So before that, though, I have some great news. I have put a cat on the internet permanently. That's right. So if you listen to the show, you know I'm into blockchain. I'm into decentralization, technology. This segment I'm calling Prepping for Dystopia. And the reason is I'm actually mostly into crypto because of the concept of prepping, because I am looking forward into the future to a time where maybe it's not just fringe people who say have trouble opening a bank account or moving their money or something like that, but it's actually maybe a larger amount of people, maybe people who are critical of the current people in power. So I'm trying to think of how can I protect myself in the future against that kind of a threat. And one thing that you want is to be able to put information out, and also to establish that information was out there. So, for instance, if you tweet, "I love America," and it can somehow get changed to "I hate America," you want the proof that you said love and not hate. You want some sort of record. And if you're not in control of the database, you may not be able to produce that record. What blockchain does, if in certain circumstances, is it can log something so permanently in time and prove that it was there at that time. And one thing you can do that with is files. So I have software called Single File, and it's a web extension, and you can take a picture of a website and then encode it onto the blockchain. You just put a little snippet of code from it, but it's you can't really reproduce it. So you can always prove that website existed just like you say it existed on the day that you took that picture.
So that'll help fight against the Mandella Effect, right?
Exactly. Yes, that'll fight.
Comes full circle.
We'll use that.
Nice. Nice.
So you want to, if you're not a lawyer or something, you may not know the various ways that proving a document existed in this way is that important. I was thinking about being an attorney that does wills and people's estates. And in those kinds of things, proving a document was in a certain place at a certain time, super important, because sad to say it, but a lot of people right after somebody dies, they'll go write up a fake will that gives them, everything, or change the will and all these other things that they do to get more out of it. So if you want your will to be executed right, you might look for a blockchain solution. So anyways, somebody invented a way to store files on the Stellar blockchain. Now there's other blockchains that do files only, and I'm not sure if I'm confident in their ability to stick around for a long time. Stellar is one of those blockchains that very well could be around in 100 years. It might not. We have so many blockchains right now, we don't know which ones are going to be around. But one thing you need to know about the blockchain is that a good decentralized blockchain has nodes all over the world. And what a node does is it keeps the entire thing. It's not all split up, so you take out one little piece and the entire system fails. Everybody's hosting the entire thing themselves, and so you'd have to take down every single Stellar node to take down that network. And so if you were to, say, upload a file to the Stellar network, and it becomes a permanent part of the blockchain, it's not going down until the Stellar network itself is no longer a thing. They could abandon the network, they could fork it and get rid of your file, but those are extreme. That hasn't happened. Neither of those things have happened in the history of Stellar. And in most blockchains, they haven't done something like that. So it's basically permanent hosting. And you can go and you can download my cat Mufasa onto your computer no matter what, no matter where you are, you're not going to a server, you're going to the Stellar blockchain. And so for our web viewers, I'm going to share my screen and just show what that looks like.
Dang,
all right.
all of those tabs.
You can see my tabs. I didn't censor my tabs, but there you go. All right. So this is the interface. tokenup.app. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. But basically, I paid about $1 and I uploaded a file, Mufasa. If you click on it, it's just going to start downloading it. And what that's doing is it's going to all these different transactions. What they figured out is they can, when you send a transaction, you can send some data along with it. And they envision that would be like, oh, you'll send the data of like what it's paying for or who's paying and all these things. But they figured out, well, that's just free data. So they started writing other things into that data. So this is going to 239 different transactions I made on the Stellar blockchain. And each of those transactions contains a little piece of one file. And so what this is doing is it's going and actually collecting all those pieces. And it's going to reassemble them on my computer. And then we'll see what it does. So I'm sharing my screen. It just popped up and showed me that it was downloaded and that it's on my desktop. So I don't know if you can see that in my share screen.
I cannot see the photo.
Okay. So,
I can see it downloading.
So what you didn't see is me
Yes.
not understanding how to do Zoom. But so anyways, this is a picture of me and my cat that lives forever on the Stellar blockchain. So let me tell you this. Okay, so if you are you're at home thinking about using this, let me just give you a big, hearty word of warning. This is power. This is powerful, being able to put something permanently on the internet. And with great power comes great responsibility. Make sure that you don't post something on the internet that could come back, to harm you or that could cause harm in other ways. So just be very judicious about using this. This is kind of a last resort if you really need to put your your note that you didn't kill yourself up before you get suicided or something like that. This is a platform that could do something like that, but don't use it for nefarious purposes and ruin it for everybody, please. All right. So that was prepping for dystopia. Any comments?
Well, I think you chose the perfect photo. It's like the cutest cat photo in the world, so of course we'd want that permanently on the internet. And I think it's worth noting that the anybody who has that link can go to the photo. It's not like protected, password protected or anything. So if people load things that way, they're available to anyone who has the address, correct?
That's correct. I saw the software had an encryption feature,
Really?
but I didn't check that out. So you could conceivably password protect it. It wasn't super easy. I had to create 2 Stellar accounts and send Stellar between them. So it wasn't just turnkey. You just throw a file in there. You gotta work at it. But it didn't cost much, and it is possible to get there anonymously. I didn't, but it is possible if you really know what you're doing. You can get a Stellar account anonymously. You could post things, WikiLeaks style or whatever. So moving on to the topic of the day, the huge blockbuster hit, the movie that you all want to talk about, The Tomorrow War.
Tomorrow War! Woohoo!
Sean, you want to take it away?
All right. Well, I've talked about The Tomorrow War a few times. I was really looking forward to it, and it stars Chris Pratt, Yvonne Stravinsky, something like that, Stravsky, however you pronounce her last name. She, of course, is Serena on Handmaid's Tale. And she was also, here's something you might not know. Do you play Mass Effect, Derek? Or have you?
No, I've watched it.
So she played Miranda in Mass Effect, which was one of her early roles, because Miranda was a big character in that game. She was also in like Chuck, which was a really funny show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's done a lot of really great roles, and so now she plays this character in this movie, along with Chris Pratt. And I don't know. I found that it was. I won't give my review yet. We'll save that a little while. But it's basically an alien movie, right? And it's basically where Chris Pratt, and they say all this in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler. He's called from the future. These future soldiers come back, and they call him and basically any able-bodied person to go to forward 30 years to fight in this war against the aliens. They basically say, hey, the aliens are taking over the world. We don't have any people. We need to basically recruit people from the past to come, fight this war, which is a crazy concept. And that's it. That's kind of the basic layer right there, without giving any spoilers, because there's some good twists and turns in it. That's it right there. And I liked it. I mean, we'll talk more about, opinions, I'm sure, but
yeah,
you guys, it seems like you liked it too, right?
Yeah, no, I see you're tiptoeing around where is the spoiler line?
Yeah.
When are we going to send people away? Remember, I told you, we're going to send you away before we do the spoilers.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to do a real quick round robin and just give first impressions that are non-spoilery. Then I'm going to send you away, and then we can take off the filter. So let me just say the CG was mind-blowing. I was not expecting Netflix to go that heavy. This was real CG, like big budget movie CG.
It's Amazon, right? You said Netflix?
Oh, I keep on thinking it's Netflix. I'll literally open Netflix looking for Tomorrow War and then go.
It's on Amazon, folks.
Yes. They had excellent graphics. Those will blow you away. The acting was really good. So those pieces are in place. The story, really exciting and good. So anyways, I give it a high rating. I think it could have been better. And it was so in that way, it was a little bit disappointing to me, because I thought it was going to be like the next great alien invasion movie. About halfway through, I'm like, this is going to be it. This is going to be. By the way, I think the last great alien invasion movie, at first I was thinking, oh, it's Independence Day. No. It's Pacific Rim.
Interesting.
But
Independence Day, first season of Falling Skies, if we're talking TV.
You can't. Yeah, that's cheating. Not a movie. All right. So moving on. Stephanie, what is your first impression? Spoiler-free review.
Spoiler-free. A spoiler-free is that I really enjoyed it. There are some plot holes we'll get into later that bugged me. But for me, I still really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend this to people to watch. And the alien was amazingly done. Just really, really well done. So that's my short spoiler-free.
All right. Well, I would like to thank everybody who has joined us. Please like and subscribe. We are going to send some of you away right now. If you haven't seen Tomorrow War, I would suggest leaving, because even if you don't plan on now, maybe you will plan on it in the future. You should just plan on it now. Just do it. Do it.
Go watch it right now. Pause us. Go watch. Come back.
I didn't even know that was an option. You're right. Okay, so we are back. All right, Sean, you started us off.
Spoiler warning. Beep, beep,
oh,
beep,
yeah.
bleep, bleep, bleep.
Oh, yeah, spoiler.
Bleep, bleep, bleep. Spoiler warning, everyone. Okay.
Thank you, Steph.
You're welcome.
Now, what I want to know is, are we doing like number scores on these? Should we do that, or just
You can.
I'd like to hear your number score. Yeah.
Yeah, I want you have to now.
Yeah, I have to now. Okay, so now we can do spoilers. Well, okay. I would say I really enjoyed it. I think I felt kind of the same as you, Derek, where there was some, and Stephanie, you mentioned this too. There's some holes in there. There's some things that, maybe they could have done a little differently. My first impression, though, I mean, it was a mix between three movies to me. Of course, Starship Troopers, and probably Independence Day, and then even Terminator. I think those three movies,
checks all those boxes. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you put those movies together, you get this movie. And so for that reason, I think it wasn't really that innovative. I mean, they had a few things that were really interesting about, especially the way that they could travel time. And the people they recruited to go into this war were not people who would affect, what do they call that? Like the grandfather clause or something like that, where you can't get someone to travel time who could affect people who haven't been born yet, something like that. So these are basically people who they knew were going to die within the next 30 years. Like Chris Pratt's character, I think they knew he was going to die in 7 years from when they went back in time. I hope this doesn't get confusing. So they went back in time and they said, you're going to die in 7 years, so you are eligible to come fight for us. And then, so the whole movie, you're like, wow, how's he going to die? In 7 years, he's going 30 years in the future. So we know he doesn't die, in the war. So, you get thoughts like that. And I think that was something they did really well, where they tied up some loopholes on certain things. Now, the big spoiler, now I'll give someone, a second chance to leave if you haven't left yet. The big spoiler is that Yvonne Strovsky is actually his daughter. And that was the one thing I wasn't expecting. I think, because they show him with the daughter in the early, the present time. And he's such a great dad. He loves his daughter. He plays with her a lot and he does all this stuff. And she looks up to him. She really admires him. And then when he goes to the future, we see her and she's actually the commander, which is a great, it's a great plot.
Yeah, love
so then
that
he's
part.
So he's kind of under her, so he has to answer to her, and she's giving all the commands. Well, then he finds out later that she's not really fond of him, and he doesn't know why. And the reason is because he left. And you're like, why would he leave? He was a great father. He loved his daughter and all this stuff. But then you find this stuff out later about he just wasn't the same basically after he got back, and he was also continuing this tradition, I guess, in his family where his dad did the same thing to him. His dad left him. His dad was a Vietnam War vet, and he had a lot of problems from that. And he was just absent. He wasn't there. And he promised himself he would never do that. That's one of the reasons he actually went into this war. He originally went back and he tried to talk to his dad and said, hey, get me out of this. I don't want to go to this war. And his dad just pulled the same stuff. And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to go in this war because I'm going to make a difference. And he ended up being just like his dad. And that was
well, they never spell out. Like, my theory was that, sorry to interrupt you, but my theory was that maybe there was an iteration, the previous iteration, he had PTSD from fighting in that war and coming back and not succeeding.
Yeah. And
so then he ended up just like his dad, with the PTSD being what caused him to, but then they never spelled that out. So.
Yeah. There were some things like that they just left kind of for you to figure out. And but those are the big things for me. I like the way they did the time travel stuff. I like the way they had that family dynamic in there. Those are great. But then, and the action was great. Like you said, the CGI was incredible. The action, it was just so action packed. But at the same time, and it's like right now I'm describing the movie and I'm like, wait, that was a really good movie. But at the same time, I left feeling like it was a little flat. It was a little like, okay, well, they saved the world, like Independence Day, and that's it. There's no sequel probably. There's no prequels. There's,
right.
This is it. This is the movie, and it's what it is.
Right.
So.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. I think that leaving the movie didn't make me feel like I was feeling midway through. It didn't land it right. And I want to jump into that, but I was thinking maybe it's best if we go chronologically in this one because there's a lot to say about each step.
That's
so first of all, when I found out that a tour was 7 days, that just like, I was like, whoa, you know, that's how bad things are, is that they can't really expect people to survive past 7 days. And, you know, you had people coming back and they wouldn't tell them what the alien looked like, which was really a bold thing for the writer, I think, because if you make that promise, you better come with a scary ass looking alien. And my God, they did.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That first scene where we saw it in the stairwell. Oh my gosh, it was like clicking. It's like with its jaw and
it makes Ridley Scott's alien look like nothing. Like it'd take a dozen Ridley Scott's aliens to mess with one of those things. Gosh. They were so powerful. They were so scary looking with their
the way they
teeth.
communicated.
You know, they looked like a deep sea creature's teeth, and and they were communicating well. They were very ferocious
while hunting.
They didn't back down. I loved that sequence. It's like, I need humanity to, like, you know, really either you're technologically superior or you're physically superior, and almost nobody goes the physically superior route because it's hard to do. But this movie did it, and I just loved it.
What did they call those aliens again? I keep wanting to say White Claw, but that's a drink. What are they?
White Spike?
Oh, White Spikes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, White Claw. That's kind of funny.
Spikes. They had projectiles, but they were biological somehow.
Yeah, those were intense aliens, and just they hunt in packs and talk to each other with that creepy sound while they're hunting, and there's so many of them. Like, you just don't have any idea how many there are until they have those certain scenes where they pan out, and it's just like ants. It's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was I forgot where I was gonna talk about next. So we were talking about so Sean pointed out that there's a Terminator aspect to this. And I really like the themes they developed in this, because even though they were going with patterns from the past, they did them well. So, for instance, you see that little girl. Her dad is a scientist, and her dad is, kind of a tiger mom or whatever. He's like, making her learn really hard stuff and pushing her brain, and then she becomes the leader. And I think that was a Terminator thing too. Like, John Connor's mom prepared him, and you see that as a continual element through the Terminator series. And so I really liked that aspect of her being, and I also loved how they developed that relationship, because she has history with him that he doesn't know about, and that has to be awkward. And I feel like a lot of shows would have just left that, for a different kind of a story. But this one, embraced it. It was just like, she knows she has to work with him. She, she needs him. And yet at the same time, he's a nice guy right now, but she doesn't know that guy. She knows the guy that she left off with. So anyways, it was a complicated story of in the family that just really gave it all feel. And then the dad was a little silly. Like, I mean, he was like this Superman, as far as he was super hacker man.
He was.
Great at everything. But then, like, Chris ends up kind of being like that too. When he goes into battle, he's just a badass instantly. So they made it like in the family blood that they're just like, super soldiers at heart. But
all three of them.
But because we're going chronologically, we won't land on when it got really bad with the father and everything. That's at the end of the movie. While they're there, they have the human story of, like, the guy that keeps going back. He's there for the third time. I just really like that. I thought that was cool. Yeah. He didn't care about anybody else. He was like, "Oh, these people are gonna be dead by the end. No need."
Yeah,
to
I was
create
thinking
relationships."
if I was in that group, I would want to just immediately be like, okay, teach me what you know as quickly as you can. I'm going to follow you and imitate you. If there was one person who managed to survive all three different times and everyone else was dying, I'd be all over just, like, wanting to imitate what he's doing and just learning from him.
Yeah. It's such a classic story element is the elder. And that's what this guy was. He was the elder, and he was like, oh, you guys. And you find a lot of war movies like that. I love Vietnam War movies and, stuff like Full Metal Jacket and stuff like that, and Platoon. And you get the guys who come in brand new, and then they're the guys who've already done their tour, and they're like, oh, you rookies, you don't even know what you're in for. And that's kind of what this guy was. He personified all of that in one guy. And then he had a nice little story at the end, I thought, too, where, because we knew that he was dying, or he was going to die of cancer. And so that's why he was just going balls out. He didn't care. So
it made sense. They gave him a motivation that made a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then there was that all tied in with the lesson that Chris was supposed to learn, about doing what it takes to survive, because at first he jumps down into the little grate and tries to save somebody who was clearly a goner at that point, and ends up getting more people killed. Later on, it's like, oh, he's learned that lesson, but then he does it again. So that was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
That annoyed me. But
it's like that Saving Private Ryan lesson. I think that's what that was. So in Saving Private Ryan, they went to go save Private Ryan, and pretty much the entire platoon got wiped out trying to save this one guy. So
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember now. Yeah,
that was an intense movie.
So we've got the future war. I loved it. I loved that they put restraints on their time travel. Because we were like, why didn't they go back further? Why would they, pick their parents? And I was like, well, maybe they're just starting with the parents, and then they're going to keep going back if they have to.
Can we talk about that for a minute? Because the way they described it, I thought was great, and I had to go back and watch it again, so I'm pretty sure I understand it. But they were describing like two boats on a river, and you can jump back and forth, but you can't go back. So it's just like a parallel time travel. Is that right?
And that they're like both moving together, so you're not even going back to where you went the first time. You're going to where that raft is in time now. And
that's why when you leave to do your tour of 7 days, you come back 7 days later.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was interesting.
I liked that. I thought that was really creative.
All right, so now I'm thinking of Starship Troopers similarities, Sean, after you mentioned that. And I'm like, one thing that, like, probably the first moment that this hit me. No, this movie kind of hit me emotionally a few times. At one time they're like, we are asking you, our parents, to come help us.
Yeah.
And that was just like a powerful moment to me. I was like, dang. We all are one family, and we really have to help them.
Yeah, definitely.
That one was hit me. But then there was another moment that was very Starship Troopers, I think, and it was when they first arrive. They were accidentally ported to like a friggin' skyscraper or something where everybody's dying on the entry, and that's what happens in Starship Troopers. They're like on the vessels that are transporting them, and that's when the aliens start shooting them out of the sky. And it's just like, holy crap, we were already down on our luck, and now they're hitting us right as we're getting there after all the training.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
That was very Starship Troopers. The dystopian government, the government being that powerful, all that, very Starship Troopers. And of course, the aliens themselves being non-relatable, completely bent on our destruction. That also felt Starship Troopers.
Very, very insect-like, insectoid, whatever you call that.
Insectoid. That sounds good.
Okay, so we've gotten to where. Okay, so there was how did they make the virus again? They didn't really explain that. They just had to test it on the Queen, right?
Yeah.
They had
it was
to run
one of
all
those
these iterations of it.
Yeah, they just kind of made it super fast, which you're like, what?
Yeah, it's like they already had a toxin that worked on the males, and so then they had to just somehow run these tests to find a version of it that worked on the female. So it was all very automated.
Yeah.
They didn't get too technical on that like they did with time travel.
Oh, I loved the scene where there was the human fort, and it had all those turrets on the side that were like automated, and they were trying to defend it, and they were all coming. It was a very Alien-esque kind of scene. Yeah. But yeah, that was beautiful. Bravo, Amazon, for all that. Now, I think we've probably come to the moment where we should start discussing the decline of the movie, which I think is the moment he comes back to present day.
Yes,
I think that's when it transitions into I'm not calling it crap, because it wasn't crap. It was
it wasn't. It just had a different feel. I mean, like the moment he came back to present day, and I was positive that the vial in his hand was going to smash when he fell to the ground. And there's some online discussions about this part, and a lot of people were saying that it just felt like a different movie in some ways, that the tone was so different that they felt like, even if it had ended around the time he came back, it would have maybe been more powerful than having that whole part at the end where they went to the ship. So I'm not sure if it would have been better without that ending, but it did have a shift, and it did feel different.
Well, I just want to say that the movie portrays a government that was willing to send massive amounts of people to the future for the greater good. Mm-hmm. That's the government that we're presented with. And then he gets back with a vial of what it takes to defeat the aliens. And at that moment, the future goes offline, which is a signal that whatever they do works. That's one explanation for that. And the government just kind of ignores the fact that, like, they have this super weapon against the Annihilation aliens.
So weird. So, I mean, they mass produced more of them, or at least the future soldiers did, but they're like, oh, you held on to it so tight in your sleep, we couldn't get it out of your hand, and now we're just going to mass produce some and do nothing with it. No, then it started talking about how it was an inept government who, they were more worried about working with the enemy, which made no sense. Like you said, Derek, that wasn't what they portrayed. What they portrayed was that everybody was working together now because we had a common enemy and we were all fighting side by side, and I mean, it just didn't seem like, like you said, it just didn't seem realistic. That suddenly the government is all like, no, we don't want to fight the alien anymore. We're more worried about politics.
Right, and that's when it turns into Fast and the Furious 7. And he assembles his crew, and they go and fight the aliens. It was frustrating. Like, I liked the whole side plot of these were just, breed animals or something that got loose on a routine shipping.
Oh, yeah, that was
mission.
Neat.
Yeah, that was.
I loved that. I wanted to learn more about the aliens transporting them.
Because they weren't even the bad guys. They were like soldiers of the bad guys.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironically what they were doing on Earth too. It's kind of like both sides were doing the same thing. Yeah. I like that too.
It's fascinating.
And that opens up sequel material. Like, we don't know, did they crash land on Earth, or were they coming to bring them here and just like didn't get around to it because they got frozen solid? Like, we don't really know what their motives were, what they do with these creatures that are in their hull. But yeah, I liked that aspect of it. I felt like if you know that these aliens caused the apocalypse of humanity, and you open up their sealed ship without telling the world militaries, like, what are you doing? You are the most irresponsible person in the world.
And then you tell your dad. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go on.
you tell your dad, who's waiting out front, like, shoot any that come by. If they, it's like.
No, yeah, it's like, no, you should have vast armies surrounding this ship, and you should have tons of people with tons of the toxin ready to inject it or pump it in as a gas.
Yeah, hey, what if we make the toxin a projectile, and then you don't have to be like hugging the alien before you can inject it?
Yes.
We have that. That's current tech. You can shoot a bear with like a tranquilizer dart.
Yeah, but instead they're like going into this ship and they're just injecting the aliens with toxin one by one.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because they were shooting them. They're unloading like 100 rounds in these things and they're not dying. And then they're able, like you said, they're able to just jump up and hug them basically. And then they break out. The other ones break out. And then it's like basically a hand-to-hand fight where they're just, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I told Derek what would have made a lot more sense was if, the whole, all the world's governments came, right? And brought their military. But our main characters were still kind of leading the team because they were the only ones who had come back from this future war, the only ones who fought the aliens. So, of course, they would still be leading the team, and they do it right as far as, like, maybe they decide when they find out what the ship is that they have to preserve it because they've got to learn more about the aliens who brought them here. And so they decide to, but they're basically destroying the aliens with the toxin and they're doing it right, but the female is smarter than the rest, and so she somehow manages to escape, and then you can still have like some kind of fight between Chris Pratt and her because he realizes that she was smart and he and his dad go after her or something. I don't know, there's still be a little tenuous there, but I feel like it would go over a lot better done my way.
All right, we'll take note, Amazon. Okay, so to kind of bring this around full circle, I know after the show there's going to be 5 things that come to mind that I'm like, dang, I wish I discussed
seriously.
That. But there is a rumor, Steph. Is it rumor,
Not a rumor.
or is it's proven? They've admitted.
It's not a rumor. There's an article, an interview with the director of the movie. Where he says that the original version of the movie written by the writer ended more nihilistic and darker. He didn't like how dark and nihilistic it was, and he felt like there were some characters that weren't given a good send-off that we didn't come back to at the end of the movie. So he says that he rewrote the end of the movie to make it less dark and to give some characters send-offs that didn't have it. So I'm pretty sure that when we notice the big tonal shift in the movie and it feels so different, that's the part where he took over and rewrote it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like there's a lesson to be learned here. If you're George R.R. Martin, if you're writing something, that is your work, because here's the thing. Imagine being that writer and you have your ending that you love. And you have people like us out here saying most of the movie was great, except for the ending. Like, I don't know what they changed about the ending. It might not be what I disliked about it. But the bottom line is that guy's going to always wonder what if. What if they'd have made the movie as I wrote it? I think that...
Hopefully we get to see that someday.
Right, or at least read the original script at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's happened before. I want to say A Boy and His Dog, but it may have been like Starship Troopers. Anyways, there's been other movies where the writer and the director had a different vision. I know, Avatar was pretty good until the very end, the one that was the live action. That's a controversial. Derek said something controversial, y'all. But yeah, if you're writing and it's being converted, you need guarantees that you're going to be able to have your say, because word is that George R.R. Martin was overridden in several aspects towards the end of Game of Thrones, and it also flopped at the very end. So just a thought on that. I hope that they do make the writer's vision and that we get to see that. So I'll sign that petition. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, I just want to thank you all for joining us. We will put a link to that petition as soon as we find it. And also in the show notes, I'll put a link to where you can download a photo of my cat.
Yay.
So everybody, stay safe out there and always be ready for the big one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.